The Grand Galactic Academy's central amphitheater hummed with an array of alien languages as Dr. Samira Patel adjusted her environmental suit settings. The massive chamber, designed to accommodate beings from thousands of worlds, stretched upward until its ceiling disappeared into artificial stars. As Earth's leading expert in theoretical wormhole physics, she should have felt honored to be here. Instead, she felt like an unwelcome curiosity. High Admiral VX Thor, a towering crystalline being whose internal organs shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, stood at the podium. His resonant voice filled the chamber without need for amplification. Today marks the annual evaluation of junior faculty. As per tradition, each must demonstrate mastery of their claimed expertise. His multifaceted eyes fixed on Samira. Some of our newest additions have made ambitious claims. The assembled aliens shifted in their seats, some emitting soft clicks of amusement. Samira maintained her composure, though her hands clenched beneath the podium. She had faced skepticism throughout her career, but the prejudice here was blatant. Humans were considered barely more than clever primitives who had stumbled onto faster-than-light travel. Dr. Patel, VX Thor continued, you have proposed a revolutionary theory about wormhole stabilization. Perhaps you would demonstrate its practical application? The challenge in his tone was unmistakable. Samira stood, her environmental suit whirring softly. I would be honored, Admiral. She approached the central platform where a quantum hologram projector awaited. The device was far more advanced than anything on Earth, but its principles were universal. The Admiral's crystalline form sparkled with what might have been amusement. The simulation will present a Class 9 unstable wormhole cluster. No species has successfully navigated such a phenomenon. But perhaps. His tone dripped with condescension, human intuition will prove enlightening. The hologram sprang to life, filling the chamber with a swirling vortex of quantum possibilities. The wormhole cluster was indeed complex, multiple overlapping spacetime distortions, each threatening to collapse into a singularity. Traditional navigation methods would fail spectacularly. But Samira saw something the others didn't. Her theory, dismissed as primitive by many, suggested that wormholes behaved similarly to ocean currents. Having grown up near the Indian Ocean, she had spent countless hours studying wave patterns. The same principles might apply here, on a quantum scale. She began manipulating the hologram, her fingers dancing through the light. Rather than fighting the quantum fluctuations, she worked with them, treating each distortion as part of a larger flow. The alien audience watched in silence as she mapped the hidden patterns within chaos. Impossible, someone whispered as the first stable pathway emerged. Samira didn't pause. She continued weaving quantum threads, using the natural resonance of spacetime itself to create a network of stable passages through the cluster. When she finished, the hologram showed something unprecedented, a completely stabilized Class 9 wormhole cluster, achieved through methods that defied conventional galactic physics. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Admiral VX Thor's crystalline form had lost some of its sparkle. This is unprecedented. But surely it's merely a theoretical construct. No ship could actually navigate such a path. Samira smiled. Would you care to test that assumption, Admiral? I'm happy to demonstrate the practical application. She gestured to the Academy's ship simulator. The challenge was clear. Either accept her demonstration as valid or risk being proven wrong twice. The Admiral's internal lights pulsed rapidly as he considered his options. Finally, he nodded. Very well, Dr. Patel. Show us what humanity can do. The simulation began, and Samira felt truly in her element. Here, she could prove that humanity's primitive understanding of physics might offer perspectives the galaxy had never considered. As her virtual ship entered the wormhole cluster, she prepared to show the galaxy exactly what human intuition could achieve. The ship simulator's neural interface connected with Samira's environmental suit, creating a seamless bond between her consciousness and the virtual vessel. The holographic display transformed the amphitheater into deep space, with the wormhole cluster looming before them like a cosmic web of impossibilities. Beginning approach sequence, Samira announced, her voice steady despite the hundreds of alien eyes fixed upon her. She guided the ship toward the first wormhole junction, where 3 separate spacetime distortions intersected in a way that should have been catastrophically unstable. A low murmur rippled through the audience as she deliberately steered toward what appeared to be the most chaotic point. Admiral VX-Thor's crystalline form emitted pulses of aggressive red light. Dr. Patel, that approach vector leads directly into a quantum shear zone. Even our most advanced AI systems cannot. His words cut off as Samira's ship slipped through the intersection point with fluid grace. She had recognized that the apparent chaos masked an underlying pattern. Like the eye of a storm, there was a point of perfect calm at the center of the turbulence. The ship's sensors confirmed what her calculations had predicted: a stable pathway existed where none should have been possible. Impossible. The word echoed from multiple voices in multiple languages. But Samira was already moving to the next challenge, her fingers dancing across the neural interface controls with practiced precision. The second junction presented an even more complex puzzle, a temporal fold that created recursive loops in spacetime. Traditional navigation would have trapped a ship in an endless cycle, each attempt to escape only reinforcing the loop. But Samira saw it differently. "Observe," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. "The temporal recursion isn't a barrier, it's a pathway." She guided the ship into a spiral trajectory, using the temporal loops themselves to build momentum. Each pass through the fold added to their velocity while maintaining structural integrity. Professor Xylix, a gaseous entity contained within a floating sphere, moved closer to the display. The ship's quantum signature, it's harmonizing with the temporal distortions. But our equations suggest this should tear the vessel apart. Your equations assume a linear relationship between time and space, Samira explained, never taking her eyes off the controls. But in my research, I've found that treating them as interconnected waves yields different results. Like surfing, you don't fight the wave, you become part of it. The simulation's difficulty increased automatically as she progressed, throwing new challenges at her with increasing complexity. A quantum singularity threatened to pull the ship off course, but Samira transformed its gravitational pull into a slingshot effect. A cascade of subspace ruptures became a network of shortcuts through the cluster. Admiral VX-Thor's voice had lost its condescending edge. "Your methods, they defy conventional physics. Yet they work. How is this possible?" "Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from looking at old problems with new eyes," Samira replied, executing a particularly elegant maneuver through a series of compressed spacetime knots. "Humanity may be young compared to many species here, but our different perspective might be exactly what's needed." The final challenge loomed ahead, a massive temporal storm that made the previous obstacles look trivial. Energy readings from the phenomenon exceeded the simulator's measurement capabilities. Several alien spectators moved back instinctively, despite it being only a hologram. Dr. Patel, the Admiral's voice held a note of genuine concern, "Perhaps we should end the demonstration here." "You've certainly proven." "No," Samira interrupted firmly. "You wanted to see what humanity could do. Let me show you." She adjusted her environmental suit's neural interface to maximum sensitivity and plotted a course directly into the heart of the storm. The ship plunged into chaos. Reality itself seemed to fragment around them as quantum fluctuations warped space and time in impossible ways. But Samira remained focused, her hands steady on the controls. She had spent years developing her theory, countless hours running simulations on Earth's primitive computers. Now, with access to advanced alien technology, she could finally prove what she had always known: the universe's greatest mysteries could be unraveled by understanding its fundamental rhythms. The temporal storm raged around Samira's ship, reality fracturing into prismatic shards of possibility. But as she guided the vessel deeper into the maelstrom, the simulation suddenly flickered. Warning indicators flashed across her neural interface, and Admiral VX-Thor's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. "The simulation is destabilizing," Professor Xylix announced, their gaseous form swirling anxiously. "The calculations are exceeding safety parameters." Samira's fingers flew across the controls, but she quickly realized this wasn't part of the test. The quantum hologram projector was actually malfunctioning, its containment fields starting to collapse. The simulation was generating real quantum fluctuations that threatened to tear open the fabric of spacetime within the amphitheater. "Shut it down," Admiral VX-Thor commanded, his voice resonating with unprecedented urgency. But the emergency protocols failed to respond. The quantum reactions had become self-sustaining, feeding off the energy of their own instability. "The containment field is critical," a technical specialist announced, their mechanical appendages whirring in distress. Evacuation protocols initiated. But Samira remained at her station, her mind racing. The situation mirrored the very principles she'd been demonstrating: chaos creating patterns, destruction holding the seeds of stability. "Wait," she called out, her voice cutting through the growing panic. "I can stabilize it." "Impossible." VX-Thor's crystalline form vibrated with tension. "Even our most advanced systems cannot." "Your systems try to force stability," Samira interrupted, already implementing her plan. "We need to work with the chaos, not against it." Her hands moved across the neural interface, but now she wasn't just controlling a simulation, she was manipulating real quantum fields. Using the simulator's controls, she began treating the malfunction like the wormhole cluster she'd just navigated. The quantum fluctuations were similar to temporal eddies, and if she could establish the right resonance pattern. "The containment field," Professor Xylix exclaimed. "It's harmonizing?" Samira nodded, sweat beading inside her environmental suit as she concentrated. "The quantum fluctuations follow patterns, just like ocean waves. If we match their frequency." She made another adjustment, and the chaotic energy began to flow in more predictable patterns. The amphitheater had become deadly quiet, every being watching as this human used theoretical principles to tackle a very real crisis. Samira could feel the strain on the neural interface as she pushed it beyond its designed parameters, but she couldn't stop now. "Admiral," she called out, "I need access to the Academy's main power grid. We can use the quantum feedback to create a stabilizing resonance, but I'll need more energy." VX-Thor hesitated for only a moment before placing his crystalline hand on the master control panel. "Granted." Full authority. Energy surged through the systems as Samira implemented her solution. She treated the quantum malfunction like a wormhole cluster in reverse, using the principles she'd developed to guide the chaotic energy back into stable patterns. The holographic displays filled with swirling quantum fields as reality itself bent to her calculations. "Containment field stabilizing," the technical specialist announced, surprise evident in their mechanical voice. "Quantum fluctuations returning to normal parameters." As the crisis subsided, Samira finally allowed herself to breathe. The neural interface disengaged, and she became aware of the absolute silence in the amphitheater. Hundreds of alien beings stared at her, their previous skepticism replaced by something new: respect. Admiral VX-Thor approached her station, his crystalline form now glowing with a soft, steady light. "Dr. Patel," he began, his tone dramatically different from earlier, "it seems we have significantly underestimated both you and humanity's potential." In the days following the quantum projector incident, the Grand Galactic Academy underwent a subtle but profound transformation. Samira found herself moved from her tiny basement laboratory to a vast research complex in the Academy's prestigious quantum studies wing. But more significant than the change in facilities was the change in attitudes. "Your theory about wave harmonics in quantum fields," Professor Xylix began during one collaborative session, their gaseous form swirling with intellectual excitement. It challenges our fundamental assumptions about spacetime stability. We've been approaching wormhole physics from entirely the wrong perspective. Samira adjusted her environmental suit settings as she worked with a multidimensional model floating above their workstation. Earth's oceans taught us that chaos often contains hidden order. The same principles apply at the quantum level, we just needed to look for the patterns. The research team had grown to include beings from across the galaxy. Each brought unique perspectives: crystalline entities who understood quantum resonance at an instinctive level, energy beings who could perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously, and artificial intelligences who could process vast amounts of data. Yet they all now looked to Samira for guidance. The applications extend far beyond navigation, Admiral VX announced during a high-level briefing. His crystalline form had lost its earlier hostility, now gleaming with genuine enthusiasm. Dr. Patel's principles could revolutionize everything from communication systems to energy production. But their breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. During a routine experiment, one of the energy beings noticed something unusual in their quantum field measurements. The patterns Samira had identified weren't just mathematical constructs, they were fundamental properties of spacetime itself. "It's like a universal language," Samira explained, excitement overriding her usual reserve. "These quantum harmonics exist everywhere, from the smallest subatomic particles to the largest galactic clusters. We've just never had the right framework to recognize them." The implications were staggering. If these patterns were indeed universal, they could be used to predict and prevent dangerous spacetime anomalies. The very forces that had nearly caused disaster in the amphitheater could be harnessed to make interstellar travel safer and more efficient. Working together, the team began developing practical applications. Samira's human intuition combined with alien technological expertise produced results that neither could have achieved alone. The Academy's halls buzzed with new energy as species that had once looked down on humanity now sought collaboration. Perhaps, Admiral VX mused during one late-night session, his crystalline form glowing softly in the dim light, we have been too quick to judge species by their technological advancement alone. True innovation comes from diversity of thought. Samira nodded, remembering her first days at the Academy. Every civilization has something unique to offer. Sometimes the newest perspective can shed light on the oldest mysteries. As their research progressed, news of their breakthroughs spread throughout the galaxy. The Grand Galactic Academy, once a bastion of established knowledge, was becoming a symbol of innovation through cooperation. And at its heart was a human professor who had dared to challenge conventional wisdom. 1 year after the quantum projector incident, Samira stood before the assembled Galactic Council. The chamber dwarfed even the Academy's amphitheater, filled with representatives from thousands of civilizations. Her environmental suit had been upgraded, a gift from the crystalline engineers who now considered her a colleague rather than an upstart. "The Universal Harmony Protocol," she announced, her voice steady as she presented their team's crowning achievement, "represents more than just a technological advancement. It embodies the principle that progress comes through cooperation, not competition." The quantum harmonics they had discovered had led to the development of a revolutionary navigation system. But more importantly, it had sparked a fundamental shift in how species viewed each other. The council chamber's holographic displays showed the results of their work: safer wormhole networks, more efficient energy systems, and unprecedented advances in quantum communications. "We propose opening this technology to all spacefaring civilizations," Admiral VX declared, standing beside Samira. His crystalline form pulsed with colors that would have been unthinkable a year ago, patterns of trust and respect. The principles Dr. Patel discovered belong to no single species. They are written into the fabric of space itself. Professor Xylix demonstrated the practical applications, their gaseous form expanding with pride as they showed how even smaller vessels could now safely navigate complex wormhole clusters. What began as a challenge to human capability has become a gateway to galactic cooperation. The Council's deliberation was brief. The evidence was undeniable: the collaboration between human intuition and alien technology had produced something greater than the sum of its parts. As the approval was announced, Samira felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not just for herself or humanity, but for the principle of unity through diversity. Later, in the Academy's Quantum Research Wing, Samira worked with students from dozens of species. The basement laboratory where she had started had become a center for interstellar cooperation. Young beings from across the galaxy came to learn not just about quantum physics, but about the value of different perspectives. The universe, she told her diverse class, speaks in patterns we can all understand. We just need to learn to listen to each other first. Admiral VX Thor, now a close friend and colleague, joined her at the observation window overlooking the galaxy's spiral arm. "You've changed more than just physics, Samira. You've shown us that true advancement comes not from surpassing each other, but from lifting each other up." Outside, ships of all designs and origins navigated the newly stabilized wormhole network, their quantum harmonics synchronized in perfect resonance. The patterns Samira had first seen in Earth's oceans now guided vessels safely across the cosmos, a testament to humanity's unique contribution to galactic civilization. "We're all part of the same cosmic dance," Samira replied, watching the ships disappear into the quantum streams. "We just needed to learn the steps together."